Welcome to Daily Exchange. Guys, we're here. We're talking with Jemma Green from POWR about everything to do with their new projects, what they're up to right now. We'll see you guys right after this. All right, guys, we're back. We're here, and I wanted to welcome the co-founder and chairman of POWR, Dr. Jemma Green. Welcome to the Daily Exchange.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. Now, bit of background, Jemma, you obviously working with POWR. Previously to that, working at JP Morgan. We were just talking about this actually, and then you did a PhD in sustainability, which is incredible, and that's where you got the idea, I guess, to create what POWR is today. Do you want to start off by telling us a bit about what is POWR?
POWR is a technology company, and we use the blockchain to do three things: trade electricity, finance and fund energy projects like solar farms and wind farms, and also to facilitate efficient trading of carbon markets and renewable energy certificates.
Okay, so now there are 6 products on the POWR site. Let's just step through each one. Joel, if you want to bring up the first one, I think it'd be great for everyone to understand this, because we're going to talk through each one and how it obviously relates. We have the POWR token as well, and we'll talk about this. So the first one we've got is xGrid. Tell us about that.
Sure. So within the energy trading suite of products, there's 3 things: xGrid, UGrid, and virtual power plant. And UGrid is for the trading of electricity within microgrids. What's a microgrid? It's an apartment building, a shopping centre, or an office, and basically the trading happens in a closed setting, not across the network or the grid as we know it.
Right.
Go on.
Oh no, and then you said you have UGrid, and then you said xGrid is the one that's
trading across the grids. Right. So that is what people would know as peer-to-peer trading of electricity. But most people would know about it from a house to house. Like one house has solar panel and they sell electricity to their neighbour across the grid. But we also have commercial buildings trading electricity. In fact, we have 3 peer-to-peer trading projects right now, one in Japan, 4 rather, one in Japan, one in Thailand, one in America, and one in Australia. The largest one is actually in Thailand with 6 commercial buildings trading approximately 700 kilowatts of electricity. So there's a shopping centre, a hospital, and apartment buildings as well. And that is the largest commercial peer-to-peer trading project in the world, and it will grow by 4 megawatts in the next quarter and a further 12 megawatts in the following quarter. And then in the US, we've got another xGrid project, which is in Pennsylvania, working with a utility called American Power Network. And then we have one in Australia, in Perth, in Fremantle, and that is our Renew Nexus project. And anyone that's in the city of Fremantle can sign up and participate in that. And if you don't have solar panels on your roof, you can purchase renewable energy from your neighbours. So that's essentially the xGrid product.
Right. And we've got just on that, we've got a video, I believe, of the East Village project and what's happening there. Joel, if you want to bring up this video, and Jemma, can you talk us through what we're seeing?
Sure. So the East Village project is part of our Smart Cities project overall, and it's funded by the Australian federal government in part, and it involves peer-to-peer trading across the grid, which is the xGrid product, as well as peer-to-peer trading within the development, which is UGrid. And there's also a large battery in there, which will be using our asset germination product later this year to allow everyday people to invest in and co-own a bit of the battery. But effectively, POWR's role in this project is twofold. We've provided the battery that will be used to store power generated from the rooftops of 36 terrace houses, as well as the energy trading software that will allow households to trade excess energy with their neighbours via the battery. And the East Village at Knutsford is phase 2 of our Renew Nexus project, which is currently live in Fremantle. And basically our technology works by allowing each house to buy and sell renewable energy directly to each other using our blockchain software. And the best way to think of Power Ledger is, as accounting software that tracks the unit of electricity. But instead of your electricity from your solar panel going back to the grid, you can sell it to your neighbour via the battery. And the project at Knutsford is a microgrid, so energy is traded between the households rather than across the main electricity grid. And in addition to the solar power systems, the battery is 670 kilowatt hours, and the battery may also trade electricity across the grid later on. So, for example, if you're working during the day and you have this unused solar energy that's been wasted, with our tech, you can store it in the battery for use later, or otherwise trade it with your neighbour.
Wow. So these are all developments that are currently. Are they built, the Fremantle and the East Village and the Knutsford one?
So East Village is on Knutsford Street, and it's under construction right now, and the battery is being used to power the site. So the construction work is using the battery, and it's coming from 100% renewable power. So there's currently solar panels on top of the battery, and then we've got a retail energy contract with a retailer that supplies solar from the grid and a biogas to give 24-hour renewable power while the construction is occurring. And then once the houses are built, each of the 36 homes will have 5 kilowatts of solar on their roof. And so it's a truly 100% renewable energy development. Brilliant.
Okay, so I think, Joel, we've got some other, just to give it a high level, we've got some other pictures of some other, so we've got UGrid, xGrid, and then the VPP 2.0. Can you talk us, so UGrid is to trade between units in a building, xGrid's between houses, and then what's VPP 2.0?
So Virtual Power Plant 2.0, or VPP 2.0, is around creating a 24-hour agile energy trading market. And what that means is that houses, for example, with solar and batteries, can dispatch energy from the battery at any time of the day to their energy company. Why that's significant is that, for example, on the east coast of Australia, 2 months ago, electricity went up to $14,500 a megawatt hour, which is $145 a kilowatt hour. That's very expensive considering it's normally like 20 cents. And using the VPP product, our VPP product, the energy company can call on its customers to dispatch electricity from the battery in the peak and give them a percentage of the price in the spot market, so say 50%. And what that means is the energy company buys energy from its customers at 50% of what it would have to buy it from in the wholesale market. So they're managing their price and risk, and the customer gets an enhanced return on its battery. So as an illustration, if they've got 10 kilowatt hours of battery and they get $77 a kilowatt hour, they'll get $770 that night. And we might have 8 to 10 incidents like that a year of varying degrees of value. So it means that the household could pay back the battery very fast, and the energy company gets a reduced cost in the peak period. And so this is about really the full power of the blockchain and Power Ledger's platform. Although there are virtual power plants and there's lots of them going on, most of them pay households every 2 months in arrears, regardless of how much they actually dispatch electricity. Whereas our system is like the difference between, you go to your corner store and buy bread and milk and they manually punch into a till what's being paid and, you hand over cash. Our system is about paying customers that same day, say $770 as an example, rather than every 2 months in arrears, regardless of how much electricity they dispatch to the market. And the blockchain means that if you have two retailers that are in that same geographical area, they could trade with each other and settle on the blockchain that same day, as opposed to every 60 to 90 days, which is how long the wholesale market currently takes to settle. And so that's essentially the virtual power plant idea.
Okay. And then we've got three other products. I just want to quickly go through those. We've got the C6 and C6 Plus, Asset Germination and Power Port. Do you want to quickly take us through those ones?
Sure. Power Port is electric vehicle charging, and there's actually one on the East Village site on Knutsford Street.
Right.
That's live, and that is a partnership with eStation. So we'll shortly be announcing details of how that will work, but essentially anyone that's got an electric vehicle can go and charge on the platform and use either dollars to pay for their electricity or cryptocurrency. So this is going to be a very novel way to encourage more use of cryptocurrency and people to use the Power Ledger platform to purchase electricity.
Cool. And then the C6 and C6 Plus, what are those? What's that product?
Yeah, that's our environmental markets or renewable energy certificates and carbon credit product. Mm-hmm. And basically, you have companies that have solar panels and solar farms and wind farms that are eligible to receive a carbon credit of some kind. But to get that is a very painful and time-consuming process. And using our platform, we've automated the process to issue the credits. So we're in California right now working with Silicon Valley Power, and we've connected to the second largest electric vehicle charging station in California. We've automated the process to get the credits issued. So that's C6. And C6 Plus is around the trading of the credits. And we'll shortly be announcing our first projects in this carbon market. And essentially what it means is that the carbon credit will be tokenized and can become tradable on an exchange. Why that's innovative is that these days carbon credits are traded via bilateral contracts and brokers. What does that mean? It's kind of like the difference between you trying to find someone to buy your coffee mug and there's no place that you can, put it online to sell it. And it's very difficult for you to do that versus, you can put it on eBay and there'll be other buyers. So we're creating effectively the marketplace where carbon credits can be traded more easily. And what that means is that generators can get the money from the credits sooner. And we will, we're very excited about this because the carbon market's about $10 billion annually and is fairly inefficient. It takes a long time to get carbon credits. And then once you get them, it's actually a long and costly process to sell them. Up to 15% of their value is eroded because of inefficiency in the transaction process.
Right. And then you've got the last one, which we're going to talk a little bit about afterwards, is the asset germination events. Why don't we leave that one? But that's a separate one where maybe just quickly tell us about that.
Sure. Simply, it's about allowing everyday people to be able to invest in and co-own solar farms, wind farms, and batteries.
Right.
And there's not many opportunities for them to do that right now. And we actually need more investment in these projects to fasten the transition to a low cost and low carbon economy.
Brilliant. All right, then let's talk about, so let's focus, talking first about the POWR, POW, the POWR Ledger token. So tell us, just to begin, how does the POWR token fit into the Power Ledger business?
Sure. So for energy trading, there are trading fees associated with using the platform, and half of those are burnt. The POWR tokens are burnt, and half of it is income for Power Ledger. So that's one way that the POWR token is used as part of our buyback and burn program. And then also users of our platform, such as utilities, need a certain amount of power tokens to be able to sell their customers sparks. We haven't talked about sparks yet, but it's like phone minutes for electricity. Mm-hmm. It's what we call a cryptographic token. And essentially 1 spark equals 1 cent or the lowest denomination of a currency in a particular country. So in Japan, it's 1 yen. And utilities want to sell their customers spark so they can trade peer-to-peer. And they need a certain amount of power tokens to do that. And those power tokens are put in escrow or put up as a bond. And so that also reduces the circulating supply of power. So that's how power is used, in essence, within the energy trading suite of products.
Okay, so let's take the Thailand project right now. How many power tokens did they have to, I guess, stake or put up as a bond to get their system going?
Well, it's a great question, Fred. And in February of this year, we published our first power token escrow report. And as of January 2019, the cumulative number of power tokens in escrow for active projects is just over 500,000, 533,000 power tokens. And we're only showing the aggregated number to ensure that commercially sensitive information about our partners is protected. But with the Thailand project, it's just under 1 megawatt right now, and it will grow by 4 megawatts in the next quarter and 12 in the next. So I think it helps just in giving the context in the scale that we're expecting in the next 6 months, let's say, and what that might do to the amount of power tokens that will be escrowed.
Right. So, and then which other projects are currently using the power token?
Yeah, so in the power token report, we detail the projects that are escrowing power. And so we have the WGV projects in Perth. We also have the Japan project working with KEPCO, the largest privately owned utility in Japan. We're supporting the creation of a virtual power plant in Osaka. And we've actually just successfully completed that project with KEPCO, and we'll shortly be providing details of our next project with them. And we also have the project in the US with American PowerNet in Pennsylvania. So they're the projects that are included within the power token escrow report from January.
Makes sense. And they're as I said, they're the projects that have staked the tokens. And then as how has this gone in terms of the sparks and the trading? How's it performing?
Well, the customers that are using our platform have said that they are really excited and feeling very empowered. So within the Fremantle project, we're hearing from customers that they're really enjoying being able to control, their energy from a selling perspective, and also those that don't have solar panels are loving the fact that they can buy renewable power from their neighbours. And in terms of our clients, the utilities, we're finding that they're really delighted. So our Japan partner recently told us that they were trialling our technology around other companies, and that they have decided we are their preferred technologies provider because of the quality of our technology. So I think people are finding it easy to use, and we're hearing really great noises from the customers that are trading peer-to-peer and the clients that are choosing to use our platform to offer their customers that they're feeling empowered and enjoying using the platform.
Makes sense. Okay, and I guess with the token itself, how does that, I guess, how is, I guess, from an investor perspective, where, I guess, if someone was to look at the price of the token, what sort of will drive the price, I guess, up?
Well, I think that the more energy that is traded on our platform, the more assets that are germinated on our platform, the more carbon that is issued and traded on our platform, the more power tokens that will be required, and they'll either be escrowed or burned. And so ultimately that would constrain the supply of power and impact the price.
Right, makes sense. And so with the you said the other components, so you've got
asset germination.
Yes, the asset germination, and then you said the carbon credits. So you talked about the grid and how that's trading, and you need to stake tokens to get the software, and then you use sparks. So half of those tokens are burned, and half of them are income to Power Ledger for the software. And then when the crypto, sorry, so the carbon credits, how does that work with the token?
Sure. So for asset germination, for the financing of energy projects, every time an asset is added to the portfolio, our intention is to use management fees to remove power from circulating supply. And the way that we intend to do this is via the POWR buyback and burn program. And traditionally, there are fees associated with administering a portfolio of assets. And we plan to use these fees, which may account for a small percentage of the total asset profits, to fund the POWR buyback and burn program. And there will be a certain amount of funds that will be put aside to maintain the assets, and a portion of those will be held in POWR escrow as well.
Right, and so that's the
asset
is that
germination?
Yeah, with the asset germination, is that related to it? There was a security token for that, the AGE. How does that relate to the POWR token with those programs?
Yeah, so the AGE, that will be a new token that will be issued, and POWR token holders will be able to purchase the AGE token with the POWR token. And POWR token holders that have held power since the initial coin offering will be able to access a pool of AGE tokens prior to the rest of the market. So that is something that we're offering to POWR token holders who supported POWR Ledger since the get-go.
Right, so you can buy the security token with the POWR token.
Just to correct you on that, so the AGE token may not be a security token. It may not be a security. We are in the process of finalising the design of the AGE POWR token. We're in conversation with the regulators in Australia to understand exactly how it will be classified, but it's by no means a fait accompli that it will be a security token.
Okay. And so when, I guess, someone takes on the software, that's when the staking happens, and then the fees, then half of that, you said half of it gets burned, and then half of it gets paid to POWR. How much circulating supply is there currently with POWR tokens?
Well, that's a great question, Fred. So there's 1 billion tokens that were minted, and no more POWR tokens will ever be issued to the market. And I think the circulating supply is about half of that right now. So we've escrowed 500,000 of those. But bearing in mind, although we have a lot of projects right now, they're quite small in terms of the amount of energy and carbon that is transacted on the platform. And we did that very deliberately. In 2018, we formed relationships with key partners that would provide us the biggest opportunities for scale. And in 2019, our focus is on really delivering that scale to market. And so although it's not a huge amount of POWR tokens escrowed right now, we're really delighted because overall the outlook is positive.
Yeah, makes sense. And so with the circulating supply, it's about 500 million currently in the market. I guess, how much of that has been burned?
We have actually not commenced the POWR burn program, and we'll be announcing details of how that will work this year.
All right, makes sense. And then with the market itself, when POWR Ledger gets half the fees, what does it do with those tokens?
With the income from the POWR token?
Yeah.
So it really depends. So we will make a decision as a business as to what we do with those tokens at the time. So I think that the details of that will be worked out depending on the glide path we are to scale.
Right, makes sense. And in terms of, obviously, the white paper was written in 2017, and that's when the ICO was as well. What sort of changes have been made since then? Because that's quite a while ago.
It is, but the product suite, energy trading, energy asset financing, and carbon products was detailed in our white paper.
Okay.
And the product we're most well known for is peer-to-peer trading of electricity, and we've developed that product and got the most projects for that product so far, but we're now delivering the other products to market. So we'll be launching asset germination midway through this year. We'll be launching our carbon product this year. And so we're just now fulfilling the promise of the white paper, both from a product perspective, but also projects. And it's not all about, projects, what you see at the beginning of a business. I'd say we're really in the scale-up phase to commercialize the technology right now.
Makes sense. And then, I guess through this crypto winter we've had, what sort of changes has crypto, Power Ledger made through that?
So in terms of the crypto winter, I think that it's been a very welcome shakeout of the market. There were lots of, companies that were getting funded with, just an idea, and they didn't have a platform or projects. And when we saw, we actually formed the company 3 years ago before this whole craze started, and we saw what was going on. We knew we had a platform and applications and projects. So we've seen, 10 or 15 other companies in our sector pop up, and you can see in their token prices that there isn't as much faith in them as perhaps there is in the POWR token. So many of them are trading at significantly below the issuance price, anywhere up to 90% below the issuance price. And POWR token, although the price has been, has gone up a lot in the boom that we saw, we've actually seen it track with the market consistently, which shows that there's confidence in Power Ledger's business. And so presently it's trading around the issuance price. And we think that as the market evolves over the next 12 to 18 months, there'll be a understandable expectation these ideas will deliver in terms of what the utility of the tokens are suggesting, or what the blockchains are saying that they're going to get in terms of utilization. But if you look at the CoinMarketCap top 100, it's quite interesting because it used to be all blockchains at the very top. But I've noticed, my colleague and co-founder John Bullich has noticed that that the apps are starting to move up the rankings, and it's not all blockchains sitting at the top. And I think that this is really a bit of a change in the market. Everyone thought there was this thing called the FAT protocol thesis, which was that the blockchains were going to drive the value. But I think it's the applications and the blockchain they choose to use that will ultimately determine the value. So I think in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see a lot of users added to certain applications, and they'll move up the CoinMarketCap rankings, and that whatever blockchains they attach themselves to will drive the value in the blockchains themselves.
Makes sense. And you guys obviously had quite a win last year with the Richard Branson Extreme Tech Challenge win. I think we've got a photo here of you as well with Richard Branson. That's really cool. And also won the EY FinTech of, I guess, the year, you would say.
You didn't give me the award at the time. It's the EY FinTech Entrepreneur of the Year. EY FinTech Entrepreneur of the Year. And yes, that was me on stage as well, which is kind of cool. I should be able to pronounce it better. But, and I think this is, to the credit, like your thesis there of applications of actual blockchain, it's just been a time of building and things like that, which is, incredible. And it just takes time, I guess. And that's, I think, maybe what a lot of people are challenged by in how long it takes to build these pieces of software. Now, with the sort of coming back to the POWR token, I could imagine a lot of households need to, or these grids need to buy the POWR token. How do they go about doing that? Well, POWR token is traded on a lot of different cryptocurrency exchanges. So you can find it on Bittrex or Binance or Bitthumb. So it's trading on most of the major exchanges around the world.
All right. And how have you found them, obviously these, I guess, strata companies or, households going to acquire, power tokens on exchanges? That's obviously a bit of a learning curve compared to what they're used to. How have you found the adoption there?
Yeah, so it's a challenge. And so what we're doing in this phase of marketplace creation is allowing them to pay in dollars and then we purchase them on their behalf. So we're truly trying to make it simple and easy for them to start to understand this market and dip their toe in the water and get comfortable around it.
Right, makes sense. And then with projects like Fremantle and things like that, do they think about holding these tokens and how to store them and things like that?
Yeah, so in terms of the bonds, we have a smart bond system that we will be rolling out so that ultimately this will be an automated process. But in the meantime, we're actually facilitating that process for them while they get comfortable around how to do that themselves.
Right, makes sense. Cool. And then with the, talking a little bit about now moving on to the sustainability and renewable energy in blockchain. Now, I know that you guys have done a lot of work around this. Now, a side note, Finder has just launched a new green area, finder.com.au/green, where we talk about all sorts of solar and renewable energy, ethical superannuation and banking. You can check that out. And obviously, POWR Ledger is doing a lot around this space as well. Tell us about, what's your sort of thoughts on how blockchain can help the environment?
Well, the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, has said that investment in renewables needs to be scaled up 6 times faster for the world to meet the Paris climate goals. And what I said to Sir Richard Branson when he awarded us the global title for the Extreme Tech Challenge is that I hope that POWR Ledger can make a meaningful contribution to solving this climate problem. And he actually said when he gave us the crown that he was at the Paris climate talks and that he thought that technologies like this could help and that we needed to support them. But we pioneered the asset germination product to bring new sources of capital and more capital to fund the energy transition. And with our energy trading suite of products, this is really empowering households to solve the energy problem and be paid for that. Energy markets are about as geared up to allow households to buy electricity as a supermarket is to buy homegrown tomatoes right now. And what the blockchain provides is a level of sophistication so that households can dispatch electricity in the peak and it's not exclusively the domain of big utilities. And we know, from supply and demand economics that the more supply you have, you drive out cost. And with the carbon product, it's really around how do you make the transactions around carbon as low cost and efficient as possible. So the whole concept of POWR Ledger is really around delivering efficient and easy to use markets that deliver, ultimately a low cost and low carbon energy system and economy. And so I think that sustainability is really at the core of what we're doing. And I think that's why, the staff at POWR Ledger are so motivated in the mission. And although, as you pointed out, that there's a lot of work to be done in building a new technology platform and actually rolling it out and getting uptake, but the people in our team are so excited to be working on this project because it's a meaningful one and worthy of dedicating that time and energy to.
Makes sense. And then with the a lot of people, there's a lot of infrastructure as such to get involved in solar. Even myself, I personally have been tinkering around with a home solar project, which is pretty intense. And I wonder, what do you think is the incentive, I guess, for the average person to invest and get solar power going on their roof?
Well, in Australia, it will pay itself off in 3 to 4 years. But at the moment, we haven't got the incentives for people to put a bigger solar system in or a big battery in because they're going to get an enhanced return. But using the Power Ledger platform, they're actually got an economic incentive to put a bigger system in and keep using the grid as opposed to go off grid. And so I think that we're at this kind of juncture with our energy system in Australia, and I've seen that, battery subsidies are being offered in certain states, but I think we want to get the subsidies right to encourage the right outcome for the system. Because if people just put in lots of batteries and essentially disconnect from the grid, those left using it will be paying more. Whereas if we can put a transactive layer in that allows them to make money from selling their electricity, they're encouraged to put a bigger system in which will keep them connected to the grid and maintain the grid. Even with the best payback period, not everyone can afford solar panels or batteries. And using our platform, it means they can still access renewable energy and stay connected. So I think that we're really at this juncture. We've got a lot of solar on the system in Australia and internationally, but the energy revolution hasn't happened yet. And battery prices are coming down, but it's not just a matter of, swapping out coal-fired power stations and gas-fired power stations with renewables. We actually need the commercial and transactive layer to make this system work. Otherwise, we're going to end up with perverse outcomes, which are not really good.
Makes sense. And say today, Jemma, if, with my solar power, I wanted to, connect up to Power Ledger, can I do that right now?
If you're in an apartment building or you're in a strata development, you could actually connect immediately. So you could create a shared solar and battery system within the building or the development and use the Power Ledger platform to allow everyone to trade with each other and do the electricity billing, the accounting system. If you want to trade across the grid, it does need your energy company to say yes to do that. And so far, in Australia right now, we've only got that in Fremantle. But if you would like to invest in renewable projects, the opportunity to do that will open up to you in the next couple of months when we launch our asset germination product.
Right. And for energy companies, why would they say yes?
Well, it's a great question. So the virtual power plant product means that the energy companies get new customers and they can purchase electricity from them at a discount to the wholesale market. And so they actually create a customer that doesn't want to leave because they're making more money than they would do otherwise. And it manages their price and risk. So they are reducing their cost of buying electricity in the peak. So I think that there's actually quite a lot of incentives for retailers that don't have a lot of their own generation assets to use our platform to get new customers, reduce their price and risk, and keep customers.
Brilliant. Yeah, and there's a lot of, I just came back from our London office, Finder London office. There's a lot of energy companies over there as well. So, and a lot of them don't have energy generation assets either.
Yes.
How are you looking at that is that an opportunity for you guys?
Absolutely, Fred. In fact, the market there has some similarities. In fact, in the past sort of 18 months, many energy companies in the UK have gone bust because they don't have generation assets and the prices have been volatile and it's been too expensive for them. If you look at the peak pricing that occurred on the east coast of Australia a couple of months ago, if you didn't have your own generation assets, you were buying electricity. The retailer was buying electricity at $145 a kilowatt hour and selling it to their customer for 20 cents. So they would be bleeding money. And that's why there's been many casualties in the UK. And in Australia, historically, when we've had these peak incidents, you've seen the same thing with some energy companies going bust. And so I think there's a bit of a shakeout where they need a better hedging instrument. So we think that our virtual power plant product will provide them with more options.
Makes sense. And then I guess just finishing with the asset germination events, the AGE. So these are the new solar or renewable energy projects. Just to keep it simple, how can someone buy this token? I'm not sure. You said it's not a security token. So
yeah, it'll be a token, AGE token.
Right.
So we'll be providing details of that soon, but we've got 2 projects, the battery in Fremantle, and we've bought a commercial scale solar system in Perth that will be fractionalizing on the blockchain, and everyday people can purchase an AGE token and own a piece of those 2 projects. And they're the demonstration projects. And then what will happen afterwards is developers of projects or project owners can use the platform to syndicate ownership to the market and recycle their capital to do more projects.
Brilliant. Now, just for everyone watching, you can review the POWR token on Finder. There is a page. We've got the link in the description down below, so do check that out where you can access the POWR token. This is obviously not financial advice, but if you do want to get into a little of the actual intricacy and details, you can check it all out there. Now, want to talk a little bit about there is a election currently in Australia, and I think energy is a very hot topic right now. Jemma, what are your views in terms of how the government can, I guess, sort out the energy crisis that's happening?
Well, I think that the carbon markets is something that has been the subject of many changes in government in Australia over the past decade. It's safe to say, we've had so many different prime ministers, and much of it's because of carbon policies. So I hope that whoever is elected in the upcoming election this weekend, makes a decisive decision, because what we don't need is uncertainty. Big business in Australia is all calling out for certainty around the carbon pricing and the policies that will underpin that. So I think that certainty will allow business such as Power Ledger to operate in the carbon markets in Australia. Notwithstanding that, we've got plenty of opportunities internationally, but of course it would be nice to have these kinds of projects in our home-based country, Australia. So I think that that's one area. And then the cost of electricity. We need to create the environment where more supply can be provided in the peak to drive out cost. And so policies that really support that, I think, are important as well, and that provide more power and transparency to consumers. For a century, electricity used to be big power stations, power lines bringing electricity to people's homes, and they were passive consumers. But in the past decade, a completely new system is emerging where citizens are becoming utilities, and you call them citizen power stations. We really need to create the transactive framework to mean that they can participate more fully in the market and start to solve some of the big problems.
Brilliant. Now, I guess, specifically, is there any particular policies that you'd like to see the Australian government enact?
To be honest, we don't feel like there's a big missing right now for us to be able to get our technology up there. Some of the bigger challenges have been around understanding how it works, and I think we could do a better job in explaining things more clearly. And so we're working hard on trying to explain what we do in a simple fashion. But we are seeing progress. So I mentioned the retailers that have got this problem with their, high cost of electricity if they don't have their own generation assets. We're seeing a lot of interest from this product, the virtual power plant product. So I'm really optimistic about the opportunities for Power Ledger in the current regulatory setting. But of course, more targets on renewables and stable policy on carbon will certainly support the business more.
Makes sense. All right, let's talk about the cryptocurrency markets. Jemma, you were recently had an interview with Crypto Tapas, and I'll just quote, you talked a lot about, if you think about what a currency is, it's a belief in a printed piece of paper, bars, metal, electrons. And I guess you said when the world's debt load, which is currently at 270 trillion and growing at 20% per year with growth in underlying GDP at 3%, has to resolve, there should be a relative shift in value. I think it could be significant. Time will tell on this. So this is obviously, probably drawing on some of your investment banking days. How do you think cryptocurrency will fare when the debt is corrected in the world?
Well, I think that gold has historically been a place where people, go to when there's uncertainty in the market. But I think digital assets are an alternative to that, particularly those ones that have growing user bases and that are empowering citizens or democratizing. You hear this term used quite a lot, but that they're enabling people to transact with each other directly. And it could be, taxi drivers can transact directly with their customers as opposed to going through apps like Uber. And so I think the blockchain is going to create these different marketplaces that don't presently exist, and that the value and the markets will realign around these new transactive propositions. So I think that the debt load that we're seeing and the increase in that has to give. It can't sustain itself. So it'll be very interesting to see whether new power bases emerge over the next 5 years.
So do you think cryptocurrency will go up if there's a debt crisis?
Yeah, I actually think that the uncertainty will move more funds and more capital into digital currencies. Absolutely.
Do you think we've come out of crypto winter, Jemma?
I think that we're starting to see that. I was chatting with you earlier that on the Coin Market Cap Top 100, we're starting to see apps move up and drive a lot of the value growth in the cryptocurrency market. And those that attract users, I think, will start to differentiate themselves based on fundamental value rather than speculative value, which is what a lot of the value is driven by at the moment. So yeah, I do think we are nearing the end of crypto winter for those applications and blockchains which actually have growing user bases. I don't think the market's really going to ascribe a lot of value from a speculative point of view going forward.
Okay. Now, lastly, two last questions, I guess, Jemma, with the POWR token and what's coming up, in terms of roadmap right now that people should be excited about?
Sure. So we have our energy trading platform operational, and we've got the first part of our carbon product, the issuance of carbon credits, operational with our project in California. But this year we will launch our asset germination platform and also the trading of carbon credits. So that will be the full suite of products: energy trading, energy asset financing, and carbon markets. So that's on our technology roadmap and our project roadmap right now. And I'm really excited to start to deploy these into the market and add, megawatt hours and carbon and energy financing to the platform.
Brilliant. Now, last question we ask everyone on the show, even at clock strikes 12 on New Year's Eve this year. What do you think the price of Bitcoin will be in US dollars?
I think it'll be trading above $5,500 US dollars.
$5,500 US dollars. Brilliant. Jemma, thank you so much for telling us everything about POWR, and really wish you the best of luck as well with all the new projects and that you are launching. And it's fantastic to see, I guess, an Australian as well, getting out there and creating some incredible technology.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, and thank you for your interest, Fred.
Brilliant. All right, guys, that is the Daily Exchange today. Do subscribe, do follow us, and you can send us a little tip if you did like this. You can see our little tipping old school. You can send us some Dogecoin if you like. Keeps the show going. It's really to ensure the economy of cryptocurrency flows. Send it on through. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys. We'll see you guys later. Yeah.